the show. This is Asif Badi of the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. Today we're talking about Jalen Hurts. And he is probably the most polarizing figure outside of Nick Sirianni in Philadelphia right now. Unless you're a Sixers fan, which case, serves you right. Fuck the Sixers. I'm not even a Sixers fan. I'm a dude from Long Island. I love basketball. I love football. I'm an Eagle fan. I don't give a shit about the Sixers. I hate the Sixers. They piss me off. Embiid's overrated. Everything about I am not a Sixers guy, but I digress. Point being is, outside of those two guys, Jalen Hurts is the most polarizing figure in Philadelphia. You either think he can do no wrong, and the grass and the water and the ground that he walks on is perfect, or there's nothing the guy can do right. And no matter what he does on the field, you're like, fuck that guy. Put in Tanner, put in Kenny, put in any other quarterback other than that fucker. Me, I'm neither. Okay, just to be clear, I know people in other spheres believe that I'm one or the other. No, I'm neither. I'm an Eagle fan. I like our quarterback. I think he's the guy. He's the reason, part of the reason why we are 16-3 on the year right now? I mean, we got to call a spade here. I know everybody thinks that you can just plug any quarterback in this situation and he can do everything in this offense, but that's just not true, okay? The only guys that you can plug into this offense are guys who are just clearly better than Jalen. Not that many guys clearly better than Jalen, okay? Jalen Hurts makes the team go in more ways than it doesn't. That is just simple fact. No matter how you want to slice it. Yeah, it's the 29th ranked passing offense. It's also one of the least throwing teams in the NFL. He's got 18 touchdowns, 5 picks in the regular season. He has no picks in the playoffs. He also adds more to the rushing game than other quarterbacks do. And we talk about total touchdowns with all these other quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts is the top of the list with some of these total touchdown conversations, right? So, all in all, Jalen Hurts is objectively a good football player, and he just happens to be the quarterback of the Eagles, who are in the NFC title game. And he has to get credit for that, no matter how you want to slice it, okay? But we're going to kind of talk about Jalen Hurts and whether or not the man is a problem, not only physically, because he actually did suffer an injury, and I really do think he has a PCL injury behind his knee. I think he's going to have a really hard time in the Washington game to run around and be mobile unless something miraculous happens, or unless he's just a super, super freak. Regardless, that's one aspect of it. There's also the other aspect of when it comes to him being a true passer. And we'll dive into that in a little bit, because there's credence to some of the critiques that everybody has been having about Jalen Hurts and whether or not he's been operating the offense at an optimal level, okay? I will say this, though. I find it funny that people talk about Jalen Hurts and they say stuff like this, we need to have a guy who could come into this offense and win games. Look at me, I'm hitting the microphone. We need to have a guy who can come in and win games and put us in a position to win these types of games after Jalen Hurts won the very same game that they're talking about. It's a weird conversation. It just is. You're talking about a guy who you're saying, wow, we can't win games like this, and yet out of the 19 games we've played this year, we've won 16 of them. Now, he wasn't the starter for all of them by any means, because we know he sat out the last week and he had the concussion against, the Commanders, and Kenny Pickett played against Dallas and finished the Commanders, right? So we know he didn't play every game. He's won a majority of the time he's been in the lineup. And since he's been the starting quarterback, from 2021 to now, I mean, outside of the Chiefs, is there any team in the National Football League that's won more football games than the Philadelphia Eagles? I would have to think they're top three. Maybe you put the Bills there, and maybe the Eagles are right there. But outside of Kansas City, there's not much more winning going on in the NFL than the Philadelphia Eagles. Whether or not you want to blame that on the roster and give credit to Howie, you want to give it credit to the coach. But all in all, he's the quarterback. Got to have some play in it. The injury. Is it going to be a problem? That just depends on what you believe the problem is going to be. If by the mere fact that he's on the field, and if he's just able to be relatively mobile, I don't think he has to be a superstar runner. He just has to be effective in getting 6 yards of carry if they do a read option play. Or if they do a play where he rolls out on the bootleg and is able to just, extend the play with, getting away from a defender and being able to throw the ball out of bounds. As long as he's able to do that, there shouldn't be any issues. It's a PCL injury. It's not going to be the most easy thing to move around with. And again, we saw in the game against the Rams how immobile he looked after that tackle. It was a snow game. He already was not going to be able to move well. And then on top of that, you have an injury. It was just a recipe for disaster. He looked like a statue in there, right? And which now leads me to the other aspect of this, his ability to operate within the pocket. Now, if your critique of Jalen Hurts is he does not have great pocket presence and his ability to stay in the pocket, if you take away his legs, he's not the most efficient quarterback, that's a fair and sound criticism, and I agree with you. Like, that is not his strong suit. Slice and dice however you want. He's not the best pocket passer. That's not the quarterback he is. What I'm also not going to say, though, is that he's not capable of doing it. Everyone acts like the guy is incompetent when it comes to dropping back and throwing the ball. Now, listen. His footwork's not great. I agree. His release is slow. I agree. Does he tend to hold on to the ball too long? Yes, but I also think that's part of the release issue because it's so long and it takes so long to wind up. Maybe the processing isn't super great in terms of going reads 1 to 4, if it's a 4-read play, whatever it is, right? All fair. But to think that this guy cannot operate an NFL offense is just stupid. He's proven it throughout his career that if he's asked to throw the ball in key spots, he can do it effectively. Part of the problem is this offensive design in terms of what they want him to do and how it's like nothing that they're doing in this offense fits the man's skill set. It just doesn't fit the man's skill set. And you bring in Kellen Moore, and listen, I think Kellen Moore has done a pretty good job. I really, as a matter of fact, I think he's done a great job. We're in the NFC title game. And as much as people want to hate on the passing game and the passing concepts, and I don't like some of the concepts either, the fact of the matter is he's called one hell of a season to the point where we have the best running attack in all of football. You got a 2,000-yard rusher in Saquon Barkley, and you're in the NFC title game. Like, you can't ask much more than that from a play calling standpoint. Much better than what we had a few years ago with Sirianni when he first came in, and what a lot of people believed was Sirianni and Brian Johnson mixed last season. So the play calling this year is better than it was last year. Must give him credit for that. There are times where he gets cute, though. And last week against the Rams, he got cute a couple times. And you would just wish that he could just commit to running the ball more and just giving it to Saquon, giving it to Game One, let the offensive linemen do their work, especially in a game like last week. But again, that's not talking about Jalen Hurts. That's a whole different issue. My point about Jalen Hurts is that do the Eagles have a Jalen Hurts problem? My answer is no. I don't believe the Eagles have a Jalen Hurts problem. Think about what we've asked him to do since he's been the starting quarterback for the Eagles. When he first came in as, a rookie or a second-year star, whatever it was. He came in as a rookie. He played with Doug Peterson at the very end of the Carson Wentz era. He looked good. Okay? Like, he looked like a quarterback where you're like, okay, there's promise here. After that, you get rid of Doug. You bring in Sirianni. And in the first 8 games of the Sirianni-Hurts era, they're 3-5. They look choppy. They don't look great. Sirianni switches the play calling, gives it to Shane Steichen, and then they go on a run to go into the playoffs and albeit lose against the Buccaneers and Tom Brady. They went what? They went 3-5. They finished the year 9-8. So 6-3, right? Like that is a good run, committing to running the ball. Then you had a whole off season of everybody questioning whether or not he could throw a football. And he comes in 2022 and lights the league on fire and has one of the best seasons a quarterback had that year, on the way to the Super Bowl, where he played shot for shot with Patrick Mahomes, and many believe he outplayed him in that game. Come 2023, everyone's excited about him. Everyone's excited about the team. We're on the revenge tour. We start off 10-1. The problem is the quarterback's turning the ball over at a little bit of a higher clip than we'd like. And then we go on the slide. The collapse, where he turns the ball over. The offense is horrific. The defense is terrible. And you go into the Bucs game and get your ass kicked. And then you got an offseason here where everybody is questioning whether or not it's a one-year wonder. Whether or not this guy can actually lead the football team to win the big one with an incompetent passing attack. You bring in Kellen Moore. You start 2-2, high turnovers, muddy offense, sluggish performance. And you go into the bye week thinking to yourself, this is going to be a long year. But during that bye week, he said something where he's like, this is the most productive bye week I think we've had. And since that time, the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC have been the best team in the conference. Whether or not you like the way it looks, it wasn't pretty. It's never been pretty. But what you got was exactly what people called for when he first got into the league. When we first had Steichen, what did we say? Run the ball. Run the damn ball. That's what we're good at. That's who Philly is. And this season, he and the rest of the offense decided we need to make the commitment to the ground game. And that's what we did, and we do it at the best clip in the National Football League. He cut the turnovers down, which is exactly what we wanted him to do last season. He changed his game completely from being a gunslinging quarterback who tried to throw over the middle and tried to take deep shots and throw it all over the yard, having a career year in yardage last season, to now being one of the most judicious passers, maybe conservative. Maybe super conservative passers in the league where he's not turning the ball over and he's not taking chances deep down the field. And everyone in Philadelphia is killing the man for it. And it makes no sense to me. Because this is exactly what we've wanted from the offense. Now, I know you got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. And there are times where you just want Jalen Hurts to sit there and let that motherfucker rip. Excuse my mouth, but this is what I do on the show. I curse. Sorry to hear that. You wanted to just rip it. I get it. All in all, though, you can't argue with the results. Maybe the defense, and listen, the defense is a big part of it. The running game's a big part of it. But you know what? You don't win these games if you turn the ball over. And the main thing is the main thing about the NFL. There's always a few key things that you do, especially around this time of year, that always matter, that always leads to wins. Run the ball. Play great defense. Don't turn the ball over. When he's the starting quarterback, more often than not, you're not turning the ball over. You're going to have a great running game. And the last time the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, you had a good defense. This year, it's the best defense in football. Is that good enough against the Commanders? We're going to break that down later in the week. But listen, to answer the question, do the Philadelphia Eagles have a Jalen Hurts problem? To all of the people who want him to be a drop-back passer, throw for 250 yards a game, I would just tell you this. We're in the NFC title game because of the way Jalen Hurts is playing this year. With his style of play coupled with the running game and the defense, you've won almost every game you've played with him being the starter from the beginning of the game to the end. Why change a damn thing? If it ain't broke, don't fucking fix it. Hey, thank you so much for watching the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. If you want to continue to support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Also, check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Riding the Bench Eagles Pod. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're on there. Thank you so much for listening, and please join us next time here at the Riding the Bench Eagles Podcast.